Cheer up, America. It might never happen. What does that saying even mean? I am going to try and instill peace across the capital with one of my reviews of the not award-winning 90s series starring a bloke called Jared who loves knives. But maybe you should put all the knives down, America. Guns down as well. Any weapon, put them down. It's not helping. Down here it says Terrorgate. That is almost relevant. This comic is a total bomb. That's relevant too. The only way this is going to stop rioting and instill peace is by boring everyone to death. Someone dying is relevant as well. This is like the most relevant comic ever. Who ever thought that would be so relevant? Jared, he is the new Dr. Fate, but he isn't a doctor, so we just call him. And speaking of cool rocking guitar tracks with shouting, this one is titled Institutionalized. Lock me in an institution, tell me it's the only solution, protect me from my enemy, myself. I'm not crazy, institution, driving me crazy, institution, you're the one that's crazy, institution. Can I just sing for a whole video? I've so little to say about this comic. Now really happens. He starts off fighting some evil demons, and yes, he stabs one of them with his knife. His knife is his best friend. Batman, he has Robert. Joey has Chandler. Well, he has his knife. I thought maybe, since there is so little happening here, I could do some comparative analysis. Let's compare to another character who debuted only a few months before him, who we have looked at a fair amount, and that is Pratt's son. Pratt's son is a better character. Let's not even pretend there is any debate about that. But the early Pratt's son comics, they're not like brilliant or anything. The main difference that I can notice is that Pratt's son, while very, very generic, it has some modicum of likability to him. They try to make you like him as a person, whereas with it's the opposite. And that could be interesting. They could try and do a counterpoint where they have a thoroughly unlikable protagonist. I wouldn't read it. But you could do that, but they didn't even do that. It's like they started to do that, and then they tried to have their cake and eat it too. He is a criminal, but he's only a grave robber, which is like the least cool crime ever. He's meant to be a total slime bag, but they want to try and paint him as being capable of redemption. They want him to seem like a scoundrel. The main thing, though, is that there is nothing to latch onto with There's now about him that in deism. There's now about him that in deism the way Pratt's son does. In the second issue of Pratt's son's comic, it was a weak issue, but there was that one bit where Pratt's son he was throwing himself in the line of fire to protect some pretty girls in bikinis. And that bit, it felt like something a superhero would do. That made you see Prattson as a good person. And it showed that he wasn't like this character. He wasn't like this. He isn't a selfish opportunist who has no real complexity to him. I mean, when you strip away the knife and all the 90s cringe, there's nothing about that stands out. Based on my past reviews, or if you've read these, can you describe or even assume a single stance Jared has on anything? Would throw himself in the line of fire to save bystanders? He probably would, but it wouldn't be gained. It would actually seem out of character, or like a really forced attempt to try and write him as likeable, as opposed to Prattson, where it just felt quite natural. The other thing to compare is how Prattson, surprisingly, he had a very long shelf life after his series ended. He was in like nearly every Tiny Titans run at least once at some point, up until the 2003 relaunch, where he was moved over to the Justice Society of Superheroes books, which is where he stayed in various capacities, mostly prominent roles, until he died. On the other hand, he had 2 ongoing series that didn't last long, and then he died off panel, and he was replaced with a new Dr. Fate. I'm not sure if Prattson and is the best comparison to make, really. Other than them starting at the same time, they were very different beasts. Prattson, he was like a superhero in the 90s, and Fate, he was like a superhero for the 90s. Great little soundbite right there. This really is a crap comic though. A lot of standing around and talking about evil demons, as if this is what someone buying this embarrassing comic is interested in. There is a gateway to hell, but it is the 90s and religion isn't cool, so it's not actually hell or evil demons. It's aliens from another dimension. Atheists that cannot allow hell to exist even in a fictional story, can they? As if this was all planned, we have an advert for Prattson's comic. Maybe inspired by reading Prattson's comic, Jared then does the only selfless thing he has done in 3 issues, which is he gans into this porthole to this evil demon dimension to save his ex-wife's dad, who he hates. But he's only doing this because it's his ex-wife's dad. If it was some random dude, he probably wouldn't bother. He is doing this to try and mend things with his ex-wife, or to try and shag his ex-wife again. Prattson, he would have done this because it is the right thing to do. And we end in an evil demon dimension which forgets to tell you that it is to be continued. So even the die-hard fans might not have bought the next issue and thought that this was the final one, that this here was the end point of the series. Our lead character, he finally does something a bit well-intentioned. He gets to save someone. Then the series ends. Of course, it's not the end. We've still got 2 more issues of this run to go. And I remembered it not being awful, but it is so fucking boring. The Zero issue was funny in a way, but this and the issue before it, very, very boring. Fatefully boring. I feel I need to use the song one more time at the end here. And then I'll give it a 7 thumbs up.